Have you ever looked into your mother's eyes and felt a strange familiarity, as if you'd known her long before this life began? Not just as your parent, but as someone you once chose, with purpose? What if I told you that, according to ancient Buddhist wisdom, you didn't randomly end up in her womb? That your arrival into her arms wasn't fate, chance, or mere biology, but a conscious, karmic decision made by your soul long before your first breath? Think about it. Why her? Why that specific woman, with her laughter, her worries, her strengths, and even her flaws? Why were you shaped by her love, or her absence? Why did her voice become the first melody your heart ever recognized? In a world obsessed with genetic inheritance and psychology, Buddhism offers a radically different lens, one that sees every relationship, especially the one with your mother, as a sacred contract written in the ink of past lives. This isn't about blame. It's not about judging her choices or your childhood. It's about understanding something deeper, that you chose her because your soul needed exactly what only she could offer, whether that was tenderness, challenge, healing, or even pain. Yes, pain. Because in the Buddhist view, suffering is not punishment, it's curriculum. And your mother? She may have been your most important teacher, long before you could speak her name. Imagine your consciousness as a traveler, journeying not just across countries, but across lifetimes. In each life, you gather experiences, create intentions, leave imprints. These imprints are called karma. Not as fate, but as energy, like ripples in a pond, spreading outward from every thought, word, and action you've ever taken. And when it's time to be reborn, those ripples don't vanish. They guide you. They draw you toward the conditions, the people, and especially the family that will help you continue your spiritual education. Your mother wasn't assigned to you by some cosmic lottery. You were drawn to her, like iron to a magnet, because your karma and hers intertwined in a way that served both of your paths. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, or Bardo Thodol, teaches that in the intermediate state between death and rebirth, the bardo, the soul perceives potential parents through a veil of karmic resonance. When you saw your mother, even in that formless realm, something in you recognized, this is the one. With her, I can learn what I must. Maybe you needed to learn unconditional love, and so you chose a woman whose heart overflowed with it. Or perhaps you needed to confront abandonment, and so you chose a woman whose own wounds made her unable to stay. That doesn't mean her actions were right. But from the perspective of your soul's evolution, they were necessary. Not as punishment, but as a mirror. Consider the story of a young monk in ancient India, as told in the Jataka tales, stories of the Buddha's past lives. In one such tale, the Buddha, in a previous existence, was a devoted son whose mother fell gravely ill. The physician said only the milk of a rare blue-eyed deer could save her. The son searched forests for months, enduring hunger, storms, and despair. When he finally found the deer, it willingly gave its milk, moved by his devotion. But the mother, upon recovering, grew proud and distant, even cruel. Heartbroken, the son asked the Buddha to be, "Why did I suffer so for someone who no longer loves me?" The answer was profound. You did not serve her to earn her love. You served her to purify your own heart. And she played her role, not to hurt you, but to show you where your attachment still lived. This is the hidden truth. Your mother's behavior was never solely about you. It was also about her own karma, her own unhealed wounds, her own journey through samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. But your connection to her, that was chosen by you, with clarity, with courage, and with a silent vow to grow. Now, you might be thinking, but I never chose anything. I was just born. And of course, your conscious mind didn't. But your deeper self, the continuum of awareness that transcends this single lifetime, did. The Buddha taught that birth is not the beginning. It's a doorway. And every doorway you walk through is selected by the sum of your past actions. Your mother's voice, her touch, even her silence, these were not accidents. They were the precise conditions your soul required to awaken certain qualities. Resilience, compassion, forgiveness, or even righteous anger that later became your drive for justice. Think of her as your first meditation teacher. Not because she sat cross-legged chanting mantras, but because every interaction with her was a lesson in presence, in letting go, in seeing beyond the surface. Even if she was absent, physically or emotionally, her absence spoke volumes. It taught you self-reliance. It showed you the ache of unmet needs, which later became your empathy for others. In Buddhism, nothing is wasted. Not even grief. Not even rejection. Every experience is compost for wisdom. And your mother, knowingly or not, held the shovel. Let's pause for a moment. Close your eyes, in your mind, and picture your mother as she was when you were a child. Maybe she's cooking in the kitchen, humming softly. Maybe she's holding you after a nightmare. Or maybe she's distant, lost in her own thoughts, and you're standing there, waiting for her to notice you. Whatever image arises, hold it gently. Now ask yourself, what did this relationship teach me that no one else could? Was it patience? Boundaries? The courage to love despite fear? Or the hard truth that love isn't always enough to heal another person? The Buddhist scriptures say that among all beings, your mother holds a unique place in your karmic web. In the Sutra of the Great Love, the Buddha states that every sentient being has been your mother in some past life. Why? Because compassion begins by remembering the kindness of one who carried you, fed you, stayed awake when you were feverish, even if she later faltered. This doesn't mean you must like everything she did, but it invites you to see her not as a perfect saint or a villain, but as a fellow traveler, also stumbling through samsara, doing her best with the light she had. Here's something rarely spoken. Sometimes, we choose difficult mothers because we carry unresolved karma with them from past lives. Perhaps in a previous existence, you abandoned her, or you caused her deep sorrow, or you owed her a debt of care you never repaid. Rebirth offers the chance to balance that ledger, not through punishment, but through relationship. In one Zen teaching story, a student asked, "Master, why was I born to a mother who never smiled?" The master replied, "Perhaps in another life, you were the one who stole her smile. Now, you are here to help her find it again, even if only in your memory of her." This is not about guilt. It's about responsibility, not blame, but the ability to respond with awakened eyes. When you realize you chose her, you reclaim your power. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing your life as a sacred curriculum. Your mother's struggles were her path. Your response to them, that's yours. And in that space between her action and your reaction, there lies your freedom. You might wonder, if I chose her, does that mean I'm stuck with the pain forever? Absolutely not. In fact, recognizing the karmic nature of your bond is the first step toward liberation. The Buddha never taught passive acceptance. He taught mindful transformation. Once you understand that your mother was a mirror, reflecting your own unhealed places, you can begin the real work, not changing her, but healing yourself. Every time you respond to an old trigger with awareness instead of reactivity, you loosen the karmic knot. Every time you send her silent compassion, even if you never speak again, you dissolve the residue of past suffering. This is the practice of metta, or loving kindness. Not because she deserves it, but because your heart deserves peace. You can whisper in your meditation, "May my mother be free from suffering. May I be free from the story I made about her." Because the story, the narrative of victimhood or resentment, is often heavier than the original wound. And here's the miracle. When you release the story, you often find that the real person, your actual mother, was never as monstrous or as perfect as your mind made her. She was simply human, flawed, loving in her own way, trying to survive her own pain. Let me share a modern example. A woman named Lena came to a meditation retreat carrying decades of anger toward her mother, who had left the family when Lena was 6. "She chose her new life over me," Lena said, tears streaming. "Why would I ever choose someone like that?" After days of silent practice, she had a vision, not mystical, but deeply emotional. She saw her mother as a young woman, alone, terrified, trapped in a marriage that felt like a cage. And in that moment, Lena realized, she wasn't rejecting me. She was running from her own despair. And maybe, just maybe, I chose her because I needed to learn that love doesn't always look like staying. That insight didn't erase the pain, but it transformed it. Lena began to see her mother not as the villain of her story, but as a co-author of a much larger narrative, one about courage, abandonment, and ultimately, self-love. She wrote her mother a letter she never sent, filled not with blame, but with understanding. And in doing so, she gave herself the gift of release. This is the hidden gift of the karmic perspective. It turns resentment into reverence. Not blind reverence, but a deep, sober respect for the spiritual contract you both entered. Your mother's life, her joys, her traumas, her choices, became the soil in which your soul could grow. Without that soil, you might never have developed the roots of empathy, the branches of resilience, or the blossoms of wisdom you carry today. Even if your relationship is strained or severed, you can still honor that truth. You don't need reconciliation to find peace. You only need recognition. Recognition that she was never random. That your meeting was ordained by the silent mathematics of karma, a cosmic equation balancing past actions with present opportunity. And here's the most liberating part: you can thank her without speaking a word. You can bow to her role in your awakening. Because every great teacher in Buddhism, every obstacle, every heartbreak, was once seen as an emanation of wisdom. Your mother, in her human form, was your first such teacher. Now, what if your mother was loving, present, and kind? Does this teaching still apply? Absolutely. In fact, it's even more profound. You chose her because your soul needed safety to unfold. You needed a harbor so you could eventually become a ship. Her love wasn't just comfort, it was the foundation upon which you could take risks, explore your identity, and eventually serve others. But even in the most nurturing relationships, there are subtle lessons. Perhaps her overprotection taught you to claim your autonomy. Her constant praise taught you to seek validation from within. Or her fear of loss taught you the impermanence of all things, even love. In Buddhism, nothing is wasted. Not the gentle hands that rocked you, nor the harsh words that stung. All of it served your path. And recognizing that doesn't diminish your pain or inflate your privilege. It simply places your story within a vast, compassionate framework where every experience has meaning. So what do you do now? How do you live with this understanding? Start by pausing the next time you think of your mother, whether with warmth or with pain. Instead of reacting, ask, what is this teaching me right now? If you still have a relationship with her, practice seeing her as a fellow being on the path. Listen more. Judge less. Offer kindness, not because she's perfect, but because you're choosing peace over being right. If she's passed on, or if contact isn't possible, create a ritual. Light a candle. Whisper a prayer. Write a letter and burn it as an offering to the universe. Say, thank you for the role you played. I release us both from the story. May we both be free. And if you're a parent yourself, remember this. Your child may have chosen you for the same reasons you chose your mother. That thought alone can transform how you show up. Not as a perfect caregiver, but as a conscious participant in a sacred exchange. This is not just philosophy. It's a practice. A way of turning your entire life into a meditation on interdependence. The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. Your mother's body, her mind, her presence, they are all changing. But the karmic bond? That's a thread in the fabric of your awakening. You didn't choose her by accident. You chose her with the wisdom of countless lifetimes. And even if you can't understand it yet, trust that your soul knew exactly what it needed. So the next time you feel anger, sadness, or longing toward her, don't push it away. Sit with it. Ask, what part of me is still waiting to be seen? What lesson am I being invited to complete? Because liberation doesn't come from changing the past. It comes from changing your relationship to it. And in that shift, from victim to student, from resentment to reverence, you honor not only your mother but the sacred intelligence of your own soul. If this resonated with you, if even one sentence touched something deep, please don't let it fade. Take a breath right now and say silently, I accept the truth of my journey. I honor my mother's role. I commit to my awakening. Then, do one small act of kindness today. Toward yourself, toward someone else, or even toward the memory of your mother. That's how karma turns from chain into wings. And if you feel called, share this video with someone who's struggling with their mother. You might just offer them the key they've been searching for. Finally, subscribe and tap the bell, because this path of wisdom is not walked alone. Together, we remember who we are. You chose your mother, and in doing so, you chose to grow. Now, go live that choice with courage, compassion, and clarity.